Shalom, family, and thank you so much for joining us for this week's weekly news update. I pray this is going to be a blessing to you, and we've got quite a bit to cover. Thank you for all of those of you who are joining us here, especially those of you here on the chat. Always appreciate that. I'm thankful for every one of you. I pray you can hear me okay. Again, I want to apologize in advance for any air conditioning in the background. There's not much I can do about that. It's a hot one here in Arizona. It's a scorcher down here in the desert. And I pray wherever you are blessed and cool and not over baking wherever you are, because it seems to be a sort of an international phenomenon at this point. There's quite a few places where that is manifesting. So again, thank you again for the 5x5s. I appreciate that. Got my new microphone there, so think we're going to be okay. And so far, so good. We've got a lot to cover tonight, folks. There's quite a bit that's been happening since our last discussion. And for those of you that are joining us or that maybe push replay throughout the week, first of all, welcome and thank you for joining us. We take a look at things happening on the earth through the lens of Bible prophecy. And we began to do these broadcasts now upwards of, I think it's about 8 months now that we've been doing these weekly, because there were many conversations that I'd have with people where they would say they've been checked out. I just talked to another couple today, perhaps they're even watching tonight, that said they had completely disconnected from everything. They didn't know anything that was going on the earth. And so again, I understand that, because frankly, we have a lot of propaganda. We have a lot of nonsense. We have a lot of things that are offensive that are being promulgated against you. And a lot of it is a psyop. So if you've decided I don't want any more of it, it's probably because of your sanity. You're probably a sane person who started to see through what you were seeing and said, I don't need this bombarding my brain and bombarding my ruach, my spirit, on a regular basis. So I completely understand that and respect it. And I do believe that there's a lot of value to that. On the other hand, when you're completely disconnected, you can be broadsided by things that are happening around you. And so we've struck this balance where we take a look from the 10,000 foot view on a weekly basis to make sure that we don't lose track of what's going on, especially as it relates to Bible prophecy, while not becoming overwhelmed. So that's a really key point that I like to make every week. We want to be informed, but not overwhelmed. If you're listening to updates, if your phone is chiming every 15 minutes with a new update from 15 different YouTube channels, and you're getting it bombardment all the time, and you're constantly indulging in that, that's going to change your temperament. That's going to affect you. It's going to produce anxiety. It's going to produce a sense of hurriedness, an agitation with current events, an agitation with your life and your pace of life, such that you'll begin to upset other people around you. And so again, remember that a lot of what you're seeing is meant to produce chaos. And this comes out in the music, it comes out in the movies, it comes out in the programs, and it's very subtle and it's very clever. And so they deliberately create arguments inside of families, inside of groups, deliberately drop these bombs of contention so that they can create these anxieties, these moments of difficulty. And how many marriages and relationships disintegrated because people didn't have a balanced approach to information coming to their family. And so this is why it's very important that we take the time to take a very grown-up approach, if you will, to the news as it's happening, and definitely absorbing and receiving the things that we need to know, while making sure that we remember to walk in love, because perfect love casts out all fear. And so we don't want to walk in any of the fear that the adversary is trying desperately to put upon us. Amen. And so thank you again for that. And for those of you that are joining us again for the first time or brand new to our channel, you're going to find the stories that we're discussing tonight in every weekly broadcast will be available for your review on our website, remnantwatch.com. We remain on watch as the King commanded us to do. And so we don't hide ourselves from our own people, and we keep an eye open in case someone is repenting, right? We want to be available to those that are coming into the kingdom. And tonight's top story, it really touches my heart to talk about this, because this graphic that you're seeing here at the top of the screen was actually a graphic that was posted on Facebook in 2012 as a call for national prayer. And this particular graphic is precious to my heart because I remember this moment, and I remember where we were, and I remember how he had moved upon us by his Spirit to really pray this prayer that judgment would come against abduction, that every hiding place would be exposed, and we would call light into the darkness. Every abduction spirit would be arrested themselves, send forth the warrior angels. Every dark plot frustrated, and a trail of crumbs found. You see that? Did you see that? Okay. And every captive set free, break every chain now. And so we began to petition heaven. And this is a wonderful example. I don't believe we're the only ones, of course, but there was a chorus of intercessors that began to really storm heaven about this issue. And so we are not surprised to find that The Sound of Freedom is the number one movie that shines light on child abduction and trafficking. And so we don't want to find fault with the movie at this point. We're grateful for the light that it's shining on the various things that are happening in the earth, and the fact that it is in fact shining this light is a good thing. This is a hit to Hollywood's gatekeeping model. Faith-based producers of Sound of Freedom laud conservative backers for a movie about one man's quest to save children from sex traffickers as it beats Indiana Jones at the box office. So I think that's a really great story in that respect, in that it indicates, I believe, the awakening is continuing in the nations. More and more people are having a conversation about something that was very hidden and very underground, literally and figuratively, very out of sight and out of mind. And now we see it. It can't be more front and center in terms of the psyche of the people, of the populace. So from a standpoint of the 10,000 foot view, this is a massive shift of mental positioning. This is a massive something coming from the back of your mind, if you will, to the very forefront. This is like something going from, hey, I knew about that, to now you're having to deal with it right in your face. Very different, much more intense. And you have voices that are very, very popular voices that are now speaking about this topic. I saw Joe Rogan, who has hundreds of millions of people, and or 100 million. I saw Tucker Carlson is now talking about these things. Of course, you've got the regular truth voices that have been more or less shouting this information for the last several decades. But again, remember that there needed to be an awakening. And this is one of the reasons why in 2013, right after this graphic was posted, we started United for Awakening as a spiritual declaration that if we would unite, Elohim would awaken. And that word awakening wasn't even being used, folks. It wasn't even something you heard about. And now you're hearing about it like it's a catchphrase today. So let it be an encouragement to every one of you who are intercessors, who are praying for your communities, who are praying for your families, who are praying for your cities, your neighborhoods, your towns, your villages, and that Elohim's will would be done there. And there are going to be pockets of safety, even in places that look very dark. Elohim will still continue to make his strength known in those places. And so just know that, and know that we love you and we're supporting you. We're encouraging you, and this is starting to really affect the psyche. And so we talked a little bit in our previous broadcast about the trauma-based mind control. and the way in which this technique has been used to great effect against the population. And now you're seeing people literally coming apart to the point where they're doing extreme things out of extreme fear. This is why it's very important that we walk in love and not be afraid, because fear will make you do very wild things. Take a look at this. A man who felt like he had nothing to lose threatens to blow up a plane rather than face the drug cartel. And a passenger on an Alaska Airlines flight headed to Seattle this week, who was arrested on charges of making a false bomb threat and forcing the plane to land at a different airport, claimed he did so to evade members of a cartel that are out to get him. Whether that's true or not, look at the extreme behavior that this person was willing to engage in. We heard about another woman that refused her seat on a plane and began exiting the plane in a very animated way because she sat by someone that she didn't believe was human. Folks, we are in the midst of a massive moment of awakening. And, you know, this particular issue of getting back to our lead story of children and this area, this has been a major area of push and prayer for us as a ministry. And we prayed that hiding places would be exposed. So thank you, by the way, to every single one of you who are members, partners, friends, supporters, encouragers, likes, shares, all of you, every one of you. Thank you, because all of that energy, all of that love, all of that beautiful harmony that Elohim brings through us saves children's lives. And if you don't think so, take a look at this next story. And I'm deviating from national headlines because I want you guys to see this spiritual warfare in operation. This is why the enemy is angry with you, folks. This is why he wants you distracted with petty nonsense and petty arguments and petty debates with people, because he doesn't want you doing stuff like this. Okay, girl 14 missing for 2 weeks is found at Camp Pendleton. So hidden places were revealed, right? This is not the hour to be operating in the dark. This is not the time. This is not your moment there, darkness. So people that, you know, think darkness is going to continue to rule and reign, boy, are they in for a rude awakening, right? Girl 14 for 2 weeks. She's found at Camp Pendleton Barracks after her family claimed the teen was sold. Look at this now, because this is not going to stop here at this story. This story is about to unfold. This is going to unpack some things. This is going to reveal some secrets, folks. This is going to explode. We're going to pay attention to this as we go forward. The teen was sold to a Marine barracks for sex as cops drag a suspect away from the base in handcuffs. A teenage girl was first declared missing on June 13th. She was found at Camp Pendleton on June 28th, and on July 2nd, an unnamed Marine was detained in connection with the case. A 14-year-old girl whose family claims she was sold to a U.S. Marine. I wonder who sold her. So we got more to the story that we got to get to, right? Okay. But it found at Camp Pendleton in California 2 weeks after she went missing. The girl was first declared missing on June 13th. And after some relatives said she ran away from her grandmother's house, however, her aunt claims the teen had been sold into sex trafficking. The teen was found at San Diego's Marine base on June 28th. Days later, a Marine was led from the barracks. So we can confirm that a Marine with Combat Logistics Battalion 5, 1st Marine Logistics Group, was taken into custody for questioning by Naval Criminal Investigative Services. So again, the lights are coming on. All right, the lights are coming on. The storm is upon us. We are in the midst of the storm. In fact, right outside, we got some rain on its way in. Happens when you pray. And so I'm just letting you know, folks, that these things are happening right now. They're happening because there's an awakening, and that awakening is happening because of the intercession of the remnant. So continue to pray for light, continue to pray for exposure. Only need 2 or 3 to gather and unite, and Elohim will hear you if you are his people. Whew, man, we got some wind outside today. Okay. We went from really hot to all of a sudden we got rain coming in. and it's coming in strong. And we've got some things that are changing on the world scene, folks, talking about a storm. You're right now about to see a financial storm. And this is something that we were waiting for. We were anticipating. And remember, I told you I have a hard time believing they make it through the summer. I know that they kick the can down the road, and technically they can go on and on indefinitely. But boy, oh boy, there's a lot of things that are looking to me like they're not going to get very far. And what I mean by they is the central banks, the puppet masters, right? The deep state, those that are have been in control of the financial systems to this point. There's a big earthquake happening right now. In fact, this next story proves that the BRICS gold-backed common currency shock to global fiat currency systems, says an economist, and the Russians confirmed their launch in August. So those that have been wondering about a revaluation and whether or not a revaluation would be inbound and is inbound, an official announcement regarding BRICS currency will be made at the bloc summit in Johannesburg, South Africa in August, according to a report. Based on what we've heard, they will be releasing their new gold-backed common currency. An economist says for making the new currency as good as gold and truly sound currency, it must be convertible into gold upon demand. All right, so the BRICS countries will soon launch a viable alternative to the U.S. dollar, Russia confirmed this week. This is what happens when you put too many sanctions. People get tired of you and they go around you. Look at this. What happened? Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, a coalition of nations going by the moniker BRICS, is set to introduce a new currency backed by gold, which means it will destroy fiat currencies. And an official announcement with this regard will be made at the BRICS Summit in Johannesburg, South Africa in August. And so, folks, the rumors are true. The rumors that there would be a revaluation of the currency, clearly there must be one inbound, because there's no way that you're going to have the same value for the U.S. dollar against a currency unit that is backed by gold. And my understanding is many of the countries, if not all of the countries, that are joining BRICS, not just joining to participate, but joining to connect in, are themselves presenting an internal asset-backed currency as well. So this is changing the landscape. The world powers, if you will, appear to have gone just a bit too far, and they done went and made themselves some enemies they may not be able to defeat. Okay? And so this is actually good news in many ways, because all your debt was written in the current Federal Reserve notes. So all your mortgages, your car loans, your credit cards, everything was made in Federal Reserve notes, which may be about to take a massive dive. And so not a bad idea to diversify your holdings and let the Ruach HaKodesh lead you. I'm not a financial advisor, nor do I want to be, but I'm letting you know right now that our suspicions appear to be well-founded, that they're having a hard time, and they will have a hard time getting through the summer. Now, remember that this is not, this is one of the things that really irritates me when I hear them call it the American dollar and all this stuff. Folks, this is a Federal Reserve note. It is not yours. It doesn't belong to you. It was created by these guys with all those weird symbols on it. Just remember that, so you don't get too attached, because it really doesn't matter what our currency is, folks. We can use any currency. They used to use tulips and a stick for 600 years or some crazy amount of time. Okay. And we're facing an enemy that is not just using conventional weaponry. And folks, when you see something in another country, understand that it's not just in that country. So technology gets released in China, you better know that the U.S. government has the same or better technology. And take a look at this. China crafts weapons to alter brain function. All right. So this is part of the weapons of our adversary in the last days, as prophesied to come, that you would need to be endured to the end. This is going to be a tough fight. China crafts weapons to alter brain function. Report says tech meant to influence government leaders. But you know as well as I do that this can be used in any way. China's People Liberation Army is developing high technology weapons designed to disrupt brain function and influence government leaders or entire populations. There you go. According to a report by 3 open source intelligence analysts, the weapons can be used to directly attack or control brains using microwave or other directed energy weapons in handheld guns or larger weapons firing electromagnetic beams, adding that the danger of China's brain warfare weapons prior to or during a conflict is no longer theoretical. We're not talking theory. We're not talking conspiracy theory, folks. We're talking conspiracy fact. And so that is interesting information, don't you think, to find out that if the United States does, in fact, end up in a conflict with China, they have at their disposal, amongst our rapidly growing arsenal of weapons, they also have abilities to affect brain function. Can you imagine such a thing? Can you imagine such a war? Okay. And as it is, we're already seeing very, very disturbed behavior that is starting to manifest more and more. And those of you in the chat or maybe in the comment section of the video can share some of the things that you have seen that have been quite disturbing. Recently, a friend of mine, I didn't have permission to share it, but a friend of mine sent me a video where their motion detectors went off in a house that they own. And they were looking for people. They thought somebody broke in, but it wasn't people. It was orbs coming through, and it was moving intelligently, and it was not a short video. I have a long, if I get permission, I'll share it with you folks. We're definitely starting to see more cross-dimensional interaction, and we were warned about this, folks. So here we go, and it's not going to be something that you're going to be able to just dismiss away very easily. Okay. And so the financial shaking is going to continue to occur. I believe, thank you again, Mike Adams over at Natural News. 70 U.S. bankruptcies, major bankruptcies in the last 4 months. What's a bankruptcy but a declaration of jubilee? I want to be done with my debt and move on. And so U.S. saw 70 major bankruptcies in just 4 months, the third worst since the start of year since 2000. So this is a bad, bad sign. The United States had at least 70 major bankruptcies in the first 4 months of the year. Big guys are taking their marbles and going home. This major bankruptcy rate is the third worst start of the year since 2000, surpassed only in 2009 during the height of the Great Recession, and in 2020 during the upheaval caused by the economic lockdowns. And so in 2009, from January to April, there were 118 bankruptcies. So these are, it's climbing up there. And I think that they had some funding that they took advantage of with those PP loans or whatever they call those. So that may have slowed down the demise of some of these larger companies. How many remember that fiasco that was going on? And so that probably had an effect to slow down some of these bankruptcies. But essentially, folks, what you're seeing is companies getting ahead of what I believe is that revaluation. I believe that they can see what's coming, and they know that things are about to shift. And remember, we shared this last week, and it bears repeating. This is the Fred data, and this is liabilities and capital liabilities, earnings and remittance due to the U.S. Treasury. And as of what's this date? September 2022, they have not made any of those payments. So this country's already in a free fall. It just doesn't know it. It's a chicken with its head cut off, and nobody told it. All right. So just understand that, because as you do, you won't be as shocked as these things start to unfold, right? You won't be, oh my goodness, my dollar. It's not your dollar. It belongs to the central bank, and they're basically having to take their ball and go home. And a lot of countries have gotten the message, and they've gotten the message so clearly that they've created their own currency so they can move on. Okay. And their efforts to try and stave off this inevitable collision, if you will, with the BRICS and other countries that are starting to think differently. It's not working out well for them to try and pull that off. They're not able to get countries to participate. Never, ever, ever an American official does not bow. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is slammed for bowing multiple times to China's vice premier and giving Beijing optics that they love. Okay. And so, of course, she goes there and, she just bows repeatedly like a complete knucklehead. In fact, her aide wants to stop her because she's embarrassing herself. You don't bow like that. You don't go there to beg for money and then start bowing to them and all of that. It was a fiasco. And it just goes to show how disconnected these folks are from reality. They came away, as the rumors that I'm hearing is they came away empty-handed. This was a complete waste of their time. They're still pitching the old world, the old systems. And, one of the things about their control of the media is we got so sick and tired of their propaganda that it has massively backfired. Really massively backfired. Talk about overplaying your hand. So here's a good example of that. There's a bombshell going on right now. Maybe you folks didn't know about this, but the U.S. House bill to cut funding for the WHO entirely and terminate involvement in the WEF and consider exiting the WHO and threatens implementation of a pandemic treaty. All global research articles can be read in 51 languages, and it's on this way. U.S. House Representatives Committee on Appropriations, a highly influential U.S. congressional body in U.S. budget proposals, has advised cutting government funding for the World Health Organization entirely. So this is a massive, massive shift, again, of awareness and awakening. Almost like some people or some evil has been removed and good guys are being allowed to do what they should have been doing all along, right? And so we're excited to see this because it's some real common sense pushback. Like, what are we allowing these guys this kind of power for? And we see what they do with it when they get it. I mean, take a look at this, folks. And it's in France, but does it matter where it is? French Assembly passes a bill allowing police to remotely activate phones, cameras, microphones for surveillance. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Now, do you know why they want everybody to have one of these devices on them? Okay, civil liberty groups are concerned about potential abuses. You think French law enforcement may soon have far-reaching authority to snoop on alleged criminals. And again, they do it one place or another. They get you used to the idea. It doesn't have to be in your country. Okay, it can be done in France. And after 5 years, guess what? It made its way over because they normalized it. It became normal. And the French people, it's no big deal. Just like Australia, when they suddenly removed their ability to Second Amendment, right? So what happens? Now it becomes like, it's no big deal. Look how much better their lives are going. Yeah, until their own government decides that they're going to lock you down and force you to take a medical treatment that you didn't ask for, right? Which we had an entire thing called Nuremberg about that very issue. So again, once again, we find that there is a craft to their plan. It wasn't about freeing people and certainly wasn't about reducing violence, because I don't think anybody is fooled by who are the most violent on the earth. And we have really, I think, globally had enough. And these are things that are what we prayed for. We prayed for light, guys. We prayed for their plans to be exposed, for the breadcrumbs to be found, right? And this is what's happening. They can't contain their leaks. They can't contain anything. Look at this. Global governance leak reveals unprecedented plan for crypto that could play havoc with the price of Bitcoin, Ethereum, BNB, XRP, Cardano, Dogecoin, Solana, Tron, and Litecoin. So they had a plan. Now it's out in the open. Okay. and they were going to attack crypto. Why attack crypto? Because they don't control crypto. No matter how much nonsense they put out there, propaganda pretending they do, they don't. And this is a massive threat. It was actually the initial threat to their power structure because it allowed people an ability to conduct commerce without them. It wasn't so much about the systems, it was the thought, folks. Do you understand that the very notion that you can do business without them? Yeah, these narcissists can't process that notion. Like, they feel so entitled to be in the middle of your business, to be in your transactions, to be in your business, that they are having a breakdown over the notion that you would have mechanisms to conduct yourself that doesn't require them and you can go around them. They're literally having a cow. They don't know what to do with that. So understand that that's where you are. And these things are all coming out. And because they're coming out, they get pushback such that they cannot go forward with their plans. They have to let you know. And it used to be they would drip these things into the news for the legal requirement of informing you, and they would get no pushback. Not anymore. Now they get boycotts. Okay. Ben and Jerry's is losing billions. They went down the road. They went down the Bud Light trail. Okay. This is happening. And this is a good thing because it means that the patient isn't dead, and their attempts to rush their surgery while the patient is still alive will fail because mankind is awakening. And thank you, Elohim, for that. Amen and amen. Unfortunately, there are wise virgins and there are foolish virgins. So even though all 10 virgins awaken, only 5 had oil. So let me recommend you get oil. Amen. UN's Global Digital Compact, according to, again, Natural News. Thank you again, Mike Adams and the team over at Natural News. UN's Global Digital Compact to create Internet 2.0. Look at this, with no freedom of speech. So this is where they're going. You wonder why we spend the extra money and time and energy in a dedicated server? This is why. And social credit scores for everyone so that they can limit what you can say. And this is why we needed our own platform, folks, our own private place to talk, so we can share links with one another that they won't let us share on their social media. And do you see where they're going? All right. So these things are all leaking out so we can make plans and go around them, which of course they hate, but that's reality. United Nations has released a follow-up report to its 2021 Our Common Agenda called a Global Digital Compact that, like its name suggests, presents a framework for enslaving the entire world under digitalized tyranny. A brand new internet where no free speech is allowed, combined with a social credit scoring system to weed out the detractors. So let me see if I got this right. They abuse the internet, use it for trafficking, use Wayfair and Twitter and all these different things for trafficking reasons. And then they come up with the solution to the problem that they created because of their wickedness, and they're taking away your rights to free speech because, after all, we've got to curtail all of this wickedness. We got to curtail it. And of course, the answer is shut yourselves down then. And we'd all do much better because we know that you're just creating, with your Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. And so you create the problem, stoke up the reaction, and then say, hey, we have the perfect solution. It's the Internet 2.0. There'll be no, there'll be no misspeaking and all of that, right? And so, again, this is where we at, folks. And we're reaching the point where in the nations there's an awakening, and this is very good news. So this should encourage you. Let this news report be an encouragement to every one of you. Here we see South American leaders block Zelensky from the summit. Again, awakening, folks. See what's happening here? The community of Latin American and Caribbean states has purged every reference to Ukraine from a joint declaration proposed by the EU. The outlet Eractiv reported on Thursday. CELAC objections also forced the EU to disinvite Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky from a forthcoming joint summit. So once again, what you're seeing is the falling apart of their narrative, the collapse of their control matrix. And this was again prophesied to come. The whore that rides the beast eventually is thrown off. And so we know that it is only a matter of time before we see these things collapse. Now, in pure sadistic form, and folks, we have been watching this all year long. So those of you that have been watching our weekly news updates know that we've kept an eye on their weather changes because we see consistency. For example, why was it that certain ambassadors were removed from the nation of Turkey and immediately thereafter there was this massive earthquake? Awfully coincidental. All right. And we're not the only ones that saw that coincidence. And there are other weather events that we've noted over the last several months that have garnered our concern. And I do believe, and I know that this is just a theory at this point, it's just my idea, I'm just sharing my opinion, but I believe there are weapons of warfare that are weather-related weapons that have been unleashed, if you will, and are being used in sadistic form to do as much harm on the way out. Remember, we're dealing with a sore loser, folks. We're dealing with those that do not want to admit that they were wrong or that they in any way have failed, okay? And so this is the kind of stuff that we should see. Now, I want to ask you guys something. How many times, and I'm grateful to see that my brother Robert here on the East Coast is with us tonight. I'm glad to see that he's safe and sound. Thanks for the shout out, my dear and highly esteemed brother. And he is a watchman on the East Coast, and New York City, as a matter of fact, is under a flood watch as heavy rains inundate parts of the state, trapping drivers. I hear one person died, and flash flood warnings are in effect. And this is now being called a once in 1,000 year. Here it is. CNN analysts of NOAA's historic rainfall frequency data indicates that would correspond to a 1 in 1,000 year rainfall event at that location. Okay, I don't want to get all the way into this. Again, remember the article is on Remnant Watch. Feel free to read the entire thing. How many times have we heard this very same thing? 1,000 year, once in 1,000 year. How many times? Just now that I mention it, aren't you kind of going, yeah, actually, I have heard that a few times. Shalom, my brother. I've heard, once in 1,000 year rain in California, once in 1,000. Isn't that a little interesting? Yes. Yeah. So we're seeing a lot of once in 1,000 year events. That's kind of interesting, don't you think? I believe it's more than meets the eye, if you know what I mean. And California is definitely seeing its fair share of it. Hundreds of sea lions, dolphins dying from toxic California algal bloom that may spread to the Bay Area. Now, I'm bringing this up because I believe that there's a reason why State Farm, remember, guys, we were watching that. See, they think we don't remember these things. They did it quietly and they walked off. But if you remember, we reported on that. Remember that State Farm stopped insuring in California. What do they know that we don't know, right? We're seeing these effects on the outer part of California. So we're seeing something that's going on here, all right? But then there's more, folks. And this is why we watch the patterns, because it's awful easy to get distracted by a single story here and there. But as you start to watch the patterns, you start going, something, Lucy, yoga sans planning to do, okay? So isn't this interesting that California homes are being evacuated? Thank you, Octavia, by the way, for this story. Great ad, great pass. Appreciate it. She's always so on top of it. I don't know how you do it, by the way. You're running laps around everybody else, and you still send me stories while you're at it, making yogurt or whatever else you're doing. California homes evacuated, destroyed by a landslide at Los Angeles County officials. Residents were given 20 minutes to pack up their belongings and leave. I seem to recall, now, I'm not going to poke fun at anybody here because this is a very serious thing. But, folks, we talked about this, okay? We even put resources together for evacuations. so that you can download it. All right. It's on our website. Why is that important? Because these things do not happen with warning. Look, they got 20 minutes of warning. They did not think they were going to have to leave their homes that day. 16 Californians were forced, started noticing the significant cracks, started going door to door, and all the residents were very obliging and moved out very quickly. Los Angeles Fire Department Assistant Chief Brian Bennett explained during press conferences. Yeah, they're moving out because they don't want their house to fall on their head. I'd move out too. But folks, this is now confirming, this is the early indicators that our suspicions about State Farm, you guys are sharp. See, your suspicions about State Farm may have turned out to be correct. Well, they did is starting to manifest, houses sliding up here means those in the valley are getting absolutely baked, because the lower you get, the closer you get to sea level, the hotter it gets, folks. So Southwest United States is about to endure a heat wave that could rank among its worst. The heat wave will affect much of Arizona and New Mexico and build into interior California, probably peaking the world's recorded its hottest day ever on Thursday, breaking previous highs set on Monday and Tuesday as global average temperatures continue to climb, according to the data from the U.S. National Centers on Environmental Prediction. The global average temperature hit 17.23 degrees Celsius, 63.0 on Thursday, according to the, well, that doesn't sound very hot. What are they must have messed up those numbers. That doesn't sound very warm. So they messed up those numbers in that article. But of course, it says that they broke the record 3 times. So do you see why we got to review these things? Like, why are they misdating that? And I do think that there is a little bit of misdirection there. So you guys can tell me in the chat what your temperatures have been like, what kind of numbers you've seen over the last say 6 or a few months, rather, last couple of weeks, 3 to 4 weeks would be good. And again, they're doing all these things to keep us distracted, to keep us functionally disconnected, disjointed. And then we have stories like this. And see, folks, this is where I really believe that we're being set up for some of this kind of crazy. And remember, robots don't have any rights. So you can kill a robot and a robot doesn't have a right. It's a piece of property. But if it looks like a human and you start getting used to that, that could be really bad, if you know what I mean. Okay? So we need to realize that this effort to dehumanize, to make people think about zombies or drones or clones or whatever it is still an effort to lower the value of human life and make it more convenient for people to exterminate other people. So this is the reality of the battle that we're in, folks, and we're staring at this real time. And so that is that's where we are right now. That is the world situation. I do believe that we're seeing a tremendous amount of pushback from those that are awakening. And you all are a great part of that because of your intercession, because you pray, you're crying out to Elohim, you're asking for mercy, you're repenting of sin. What's going to happen? Well, he's going to begin to open doors. He's going to begin to shine light. He's going to be able to show where the issues are. And that's what I believe we're seeing. And so I want to thank everybody who is part of that awakening right now and is joined in that awakening moment. Okay. And if you're out there in the heat and you're enduring that heat, well, and understand that is also part of Bible prophecy coming to pass right around you. And we are seeing the days that were prophesied to come when people would fall away. There's a great falling away going on right now. Now, I warned, and I have warned several times about those that are doing deliverance ministry and are themselves in need of deliverance. And so I was not surprised to see that certain ministries that are that went out there, ran out there, got excited about, and I told you all that they would make a mess and they would do more harm than good. So now we're seeing a little bit of that pushback and recovery of some of that material, and perhaps a little bit more awakening. So well done in your intercession. Continue to pray. We want people to get really delivered. It's all about relapse rate, and some things work and some things don't. We cannot operate in anything fake and expect real results. We cannot operate in anything false and expect the truth. Amen. So we have to be people that pursue with full heart the truth in every circumstance. Amen and amen. I'm thankful for every one of you that are praying. Your prayers are making a huge difference, folks. Let me tell you, you may not realize this, but if you know, you know. Things that are slowly coming into the consciousness of the people. And this is for a reason. So those that were waiting for evidence of revaluation, change, major shifting occurring, I believe you're getting those confirmations if you have eyes to see. I believe that our adversary is running out of time. And I believe those that have put their trust in his systems will rue the day. But those of you that trust in your Elohim, those of you who cry out to your Messiah, those of you who accepted the free gift of eternal life, who have accepted and have confessed your sins and have repented of such and are now walking upright before him, you need to rejoice, for your redemption is drawing nigh. Your endurance of this world and its abuses, its sadistic assault on your conscience, on your heart, is coming to an end. We are seeing the dirty ugly. It is hard to watch. I'm sorry for some of the things that are coming out, but we needed to see them. Only with our eyes we watch the recompense of the wicked, and I pray that you are strengthened as you see our prayers are being answered. I hope that that encourages your heart. I hope that you are starting to realize that this is not about just a typical or sort of run-of-the-mill moment. This is a very, very big moment in all of creation, in all of time. This is the grand finale, if you will. And so those of you that noticed the changes as they were coming in and awakening to the conflict, get in here. Stand with your brothers and sisters. Look at that chat. These are people like you, just like you, who woke up and went, hey, how come no one else is seeing what I'm seeing? How come am I the only one that sees this? And maybe in your group, you are. You might be. So coming around and with your other brothers and sisters, you start going, all right, I'm not crazy. They see the same thing I'm seeing, and they're waking up and they're realizing it. Now I know that he's picking the people. He's choosing who he blesses with that awakening. And so if you're one of those that he has chosen, selected, blessed with understanding so that you can come into the kingdom and be translated out of the kingdom of darkness, you are blessed. You are chosen. You are among the royal priesthood, that holy nation, the peculiar people that he sets apart. And this, unfortunately, is not for everyone. The future is for the few. The future is for the few. I'm telling you right now, they are trying to make it their few. They want to be in charge of admission. But how many know that they are not? And they're finding that out. They're so used to being in control of the club, right? So they dictate to you all. And next thing you know, their very words are being pushed back upon them, and billions of dollars are being lost. And they're facing the reality that they don't dictate, that their words are not authoritative as they think they are. But instead, they've been bluffing and witchcrafting their way through this entire time. Now the people are waking up. Now they're aware of it. And as a result of that awareness, change will come. And so stand by, saints, continue to stay together. My strong encouragement to you all is to find your fold, get together with your brothers and sisters in this hour, start collaborating economically, physically in terms of community, economically, socially, collaborate together, because then the impact of what is coming will be minimized by your unity. The more united you are, the less impact you're going to feel from the wind and the rain that's about to hit. If you're all by yourself, you're going to be battening down those hatches all by yourself. Really, really hard to do. And so I can't recommend enough that you find your brothers and sisters in this hour, get together with them, start collaborating, start uniting. You don't have to do it with Remnant House. Let us just be that which inspires you. We're grateful for those that have made Remnant House their house. It's a small group, but if it weren't for them, you wouldn't even be getting this broadcast. So that proves to you that a small group can be effective. And I encourage you all to find that place that Elohim has for you. Well, that's it for tonight. I'm grateful that I was able to sit with you all. I pray this has been a blessing to you as an overview. Again, want to recommend that you bookmark Remnant Watch and encourage others to keep an eye on the things that are going on, but not become overwhelmed. Be informed without being overwhelmed. Amen. And continue to look up, because our redemption draws nigh. Thank you so much for joining us. May Elohim bless each and every one of you. Join us again next week at this exact time, right here at Remnant House, and we'll be happy to go over the news with you as we do every week. Shalom, my friends.